This is in theory.
What is platforming?
There is a social phenomenon in American political culture that I call platforming. This concept is important to understanding current times. Platforming is built around three basic things. The first is audience obedience. I am going to create a platform of what are basically kind of like subscribers. The way that this audience begins to become this way is through self-selection. We're starting to see this in culture, in behavior. What is self-selection? Well, Facebook sends you something. You don't like it. You only push what you like, and they keep sending you what you like. You see this also in neighborhoods. If you go out in Yellow Springs, they have the same political beliefs. It's very liberal out in Yellow Springs. That's like a self-selection. You know, it's a rich place, but you notice it's not a conservative place. Normally you'd think rich place be a conservative place. And so there gets to be an audience that's obedient in a certain way. I'm not saying they don't have free will. I'm saying that through market choices, this is what they like. And the next concept is narrative. People conflate this term. Someone might have a theory, and they'll call it a narrative. Narrative and theory are getting conflated. You know, hypothesis and theory are very fine, but I have a hypothesis. This is what narrative is. Narrative is where there's information, facts, and what you do is you weave it into a story. You put a theme inside the facts that are happening. You know, I could be perfectly objective as a journalist. I'd be like a Vulcan, never injecting a theme, just reporting the facts. That's not what happens today. Facts get put into a bucket. They get put into a framework, into a theme, into a story, into a narrative. One of the fun things is the stock market. When it goes up a few points, down a few points, investors, scary about the Christmas season, so stocks are down a little bit. Empirically, you don't know that they're scary about the Christmas season. They wrap it up into this little theme. Almost all news that's given to you today does come packaged in a theme. What they also do is communicate an attitude. Some sort of attitude gets communicated. Now, it's not directly, it's sort of suggested. If you watch MSNBC, which is very liberal, there's lots of themes and attitudes coming at you, which liberal people, the leftist people like that stuff. They like reality being told that way to them. Whereas if you go to the other stations like Fox, not only may you hear different news, even if it's the same news, it's going to be packaged in a little bit different way. And conservative people who watch the Fox program like to receive that. I think of it as a kind of petting. You have an animal and you're petting it. In a manner of speaking, when you watch these things, this is kind of what you're getting. And finally, there's the concept of ownership. You have to understand, when a platform is built, someone owns it. This must be understood by you. Now, what does that mean? It means that it's not merit-based. When the Fox network picks Sean Hannity to be in their prime spot, or when they put Tucker Carlson there, they haven't picked the absolute best person that they can. They've picked someone who effectively services the platform. I'll give you another example. The Dayton Daily News. That's a local newspaper. So it's not, local news really isn't ideologically driven usually. It's like a fun paper. Safe stuff is in there. The crossword puzzle. So on the opinion section, when you flip to the opinion page, do they have the best absolute people to give you political opinions on the editorial page? No. They simply have someone who services the platform properly. And I say this to you because, one time, newspapers have always been like this. I went to the Dayton Daily News and I offered to do them political stuff for once every 2 weeks. And I was going to do it for free. And it didn't matter that your work is better than what's in there. You don't get in. Somebody is assigned that in the platform. It gets assigned that. I want you to understand, because the platform is owned, that's my platform if I own it. And the pieces, the chess pieces that get put in there have to make sure that this continues in the way that it should continue. By the way, I want to be very clear here. Absolutely none of this, nothing I have said is conspiratorial. I have not given you any conspiratorial premise or grammar. This is simply a way markets work now. Information markets work. They work by ownership of platform, communicating narratives, and then that self-selection tends to occur. These are all empirical premises.
You are listening to In Theory.
Now, what is the end result of this? The social result of this phenomenon is not this. What is this? This is a free market. Person's looking here, person's looking here, all the views are represented. Flea market is wonderful capitalism. That's capitalism unobstructed. That's capitalism that is not controlled by anything. This is not a platform. It is a market. That is merit-based. The audience is conceptually random. The audience is the public. Notice the cost to the consumer. What is the cost to the consumer in this situation? Let's say I'm a consumer. What's the cost? Well, the cost is time. I have to look at this, I have to look at that. It's shopping. I like shopping. But the problem is, shopping is like an event you do. If you had to do it every day, it'd be a real pain. It requires labor. Look around, look at this, and look at that. So what is the result if this is not the result? The result of the platform is this. There's no cost to this individual. Automatically, it's getting fed. And what is getting fed? Well, what you like to hear. And in the age that we live in, this phenomenon is happening socially. It's happening a lot. Today, what has emerged as a social phenomenon is a marketplace where the suppliers of product are platforming. It's a marketplace of platforms. It's not like a flea market. Religion works not unlike this. You figure out your affinity first and then go to your assigned building, your message room. If I'm Catholic, I go into this building and get Catholic type messages. If I'm Protestant, I go into this other, I'm assigned this place to go and get these messages about God. What's happening with information today is it's not unlike that. The market has learned and the consumer has learned in the digital age also caused this, that you get messages you like, you keep going back only to those things. This is what's allowing QAnon to exist. People like these conspiracy things. They're fun. They're into them. They get suckered into them, and they keep watching them. And to a large extent, this is afflicting us all in some way.
You are listening to In Theory.
I think it's important to be able to watch all media outlets because all the ones that we have available to us, they are highly biased.
I don't think that we should be talking about the media as biased. I think that's the problem.
Okay.
It's not a bias, it's a platform.
No.
So for example, what is happening is not that the media has become biased, it's that it's become platformed.
What do you mean by platform? It's just a platform for politicians to use?
No, what I'm saying is this. There's a customer base. They keep coming back every night, and the goal is to get them to come back. And in getting them to come back, you want to get them what they want to hear. And the things that they're interested in the drama, you want to give that to them. So if something does not fit that platform objective, then it gets cast aside and goes to some other platform, which is doing the same thing. Here's my audience. This is what they want. This is what we go to give them. Let's put this on here. This is why Fox News, if you notice about Fox, they have really poor specimens in the evening. Who do they have? Tucker Carlson, who's awful. He's awful. And even Hannity is not very good. But they're killing everyone in the ratings. Why? Because they've got a platform that is receptive to a certain way of seeing, which isn't an ignoramus way of seeing, which my friends on the left often suggest and are wrong. There is, in fact, a philosophical system there. There is, in fact, a way of seeing there. But Fox gets by with having poor specimens in the evening because that platform really has pretty good constituency. And so rather than seeing bias, what you need to see is that it's just platforming. And one of the problems is ourselves, is we want to blame the media. News would be so boring. Politics would be so boring. Half the people would vote if we did it as, it would become like eating vegetables. It would be just so boring.
It's really interesting that you say that.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily blame the media. They're doing what gets them their ratings. They have to make their content with their customer in mind. Yeah, they're just building content to fit.
So this is part of the problem now. And the question is, you're right, you can't really blame anyone, but what do you do about it? People say, well, you should read both sides. I think there's another answer. And I think the answer is, professors don't platform. And this is why lectures are boring. Courses might be boring because they're not platformed.
You are listening to In Theory.
The real problem that we have today isn't that there's misinformation. The real problem is that as a society, whatever picture you want to exist for something, there's a market for it. And that we as a people are now becoming intolerant whenever someone comes along and tries to show another picture. We don't want to be consumers of pictures we don't like. This is actually what's happening. We get kind of upset when we're forced to look at something, conceptualize it, think about it in a way that we don't want to. And it's a social phenomenon. And this is what I think is happening.
You are listening to In Theory.
Ask yourself a simple question. When you pick up New York Times, when you pick up Washington Post, when you pick up CNN, how many times is whatever it is that's being described, the reality, being told to you in a way that it's negative Trump? There's actually quite a lot of it. Now, go into the universe of Fox and some other platforms and ask yourselves how many times you're getting something else. And it seems to me that we kind of have platforms based upon loyalties, based upon the way that this reality would suit an anti-Trump universe or the way it would suit a pro-Trump universe. And it's fundamentally this that I'm against. Somebody needs to be a parent. Somebody's got to be in the room to say, this is the way that these people are seeing it, and this is the way that these other people are seeing it. Because you've got to get out of this bubble if you're going to see it. Some people don't want to get out of the bubble, and that's fine. Some people want to be partisans. I'm not saying there shouldn't be partisans. There are soldiers in life. If you want to be a soldier, that's fine. I'm not against that. But what I am against is the fact that there aren't enough centrists. There aren't enough disinterested people. We need to have a certain number of people kind of taking their hands off it and kind of just describing how each side is seeing things, even if it means that you're putting content out a little bit that each side doesn't like.